Hey guys, happy Monday. Today is November 9th, 2020. We are still inside of our Unit 3 place value, and today we are going to begin our estimation and addition of decimals. So last week we already started talking about rounding and estimation, and then today we are going to begin our addition of decimals. So in your notes, make sure that you write on a new clean page, pause the video if you need to here, estimation and addition of decimals. All right, inside of your notes, I want you to write the notes. We can go ahead and just do the first part of it, which is addition, but we are going to be creating the anchor chart, adding and subtracting decimals. So your Rule 1 is line them up, meaning line up the decimals. So your ones place, your decimals, your tenths, and your hundredths need to be lined up because the place value matters. And again, we can just do the Rule 1 and write the sample for adding today. So 1 and 4/10 plus 6 and 75 hundredths. Rule 2, drop it down, meaning bring down the decimal place so they're lined up and it just goes straight down for addition and subtraction. And then your Rule 3 is to add in a zero or a place value holder in any spaces that there might be empty. So instead of 1 and 4/10, it's now 1 and 40 hundredths plus 6 and 75 hundredths. And then you're just beginning to add on the right and moving all the way to the left like you would with normal addition. So make sure that you go ahead and get these rules in, line them up, drop them down, fill them in with the place value holders of your zeros. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a warm up. It says Luis went to the store and bought 3 items. Each price is listed below. About how much money did Luis spend in all? So it says the keyword about that is here. About how much money did Luis spend in all? So we're going to make sure that we have both of those that are in there. And then it says round to the nearest whole dollar. So again, those are very big clues for you to be able to understand. So what I want you to do is pause the video here and see if you can round each of these numbers to the nearest whole dollar. And then it says how much did he spend in all. So that means that we are going to be adding. Okay, so you should have rounded them to the nearest whole dollar. So $3.98, you have 3 and a 9 that is in your hundreds place. You would round that to $4. And if you want to do your zero and decimal place 00, more than welcome to do that. And then $11.36. So you have a 1 and the 3 tells the 11. It stays the same. So again, practice lining them up, adding your decimal place, and then add them up. And then the last one is $4.69, which rounds to 5. Decimal place. So we lined them up. There's our symbol. I'm going to drop down my decimal place here. And I'm going to add in a 0 here. And I'm going to add in a 0 here so that there are no holes. And then once we add, we have 0, 0, 0, 0. You have 0, 0, 0, 0. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. Regroup and carry. And this should be 2. So about how much money did Luis spend in all? He spent about $20. That's our practice round. Okay, let's move on forward. So check and make sure you have those answers correct. Now, here we have an I do, rounding to the nearest whole number. So last Thursday and Friday, we talked about rounding and rounding to the nearest whole number or rounding to the nearest tenth or hundredth or thousands. So we're going to look at this one on a number line. So here we have 5/9 or 5 and 9/10. So that would be somewhere in between your 5 and somewhere in between your 6. And if we think about splitting that down the middle, that is 5 and 5/10. So it says that rounding it to the nearest whole, is 5 and 9/10 closer to 5 or closer to 6? So if we're rounding that to the nearest whole number, I would think, okay, that is closer to 6. And the distance to the nearest whole number is, it is just 1/10. And I'm going to write it as a fraction so that you can see that as well. 1/10, or if I wrote it as a decimal, it would be 1/10. So that's what we're going to be looking at first in rounding. Remember, you have to look to see where it says rounding it to the nearest whole number or nearest tenth or hundredth. And let's practice a few of those on our own. Okay, so you have 7 and 87/100ths, 87/100ths. And if you're wanting to do that, we're still going to be looking at here in the tenths place in your whole, because it says rounding it to the nearest whole number. So we know it's going to be 7. And we know the next whole number is 8 if we look on the number line. So I want you to pause the video here and see if you can figure out which one it is closest to and how many tenths it is away from it. So pause the video here and then come back and check to see if you did it correct. So if you're looking at rounding it to the nearest whole number, you have 7 and 87/100ths, which is going to be somewhere right about here, which is very close to 7/9, which if we look at that, it is closer to 8. So your closest whole number is going to be your 8. And the distance to the nearest whole number is, it is about 1/10 still, or estimate about 1/10. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, so you have 3 and 6/100ths, 3 and 6/100ths, rounded it to the nearest whole number, and how close is it to that nearest whole number? So pause the video here, see if you can do the same thing on your own. So you should have that 3 and 6/100ths is going to be super close to 3. And if you did your marking points, it is going to be somewhere in between 3 and 4. So if I look that it is nearest to 3, the nearest whole number is going to be 3, and it is still almost 1/10 away, around there. All right. Check and make sure you have everything written in your journals. And we're about to move to some word problems. Okay, so on this one, now we're going to move into not rounding, but looking at estimations and addition problems. So again, we did our review for estimation, and now we're going to practice some addition as well. All right, so Deanna runs 5.9 miles on Monday and 3 4/10 miles on Thursday. And it says, what is the total distance that she runs? So I see some keywords inside of here. It says, what is the total distance that she runs? And she has this much on Monday and this much on Thursday, and it's looking for total. So I'm thinking that I'm going to add. So before we do any estimations or anything, we're going to do the adding first, and then we will see if the estimation is correct with that. So again, write down your numbers, 5.9 or 5 and 9/10 and 3 and 4/10. Line them up. Then you add them up. Drop your decimal place down. And then 9 plus 4 is 13. You carry. And 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. 9 and 3/10 is your adding, and that is just your adding. Now, if I were thinking about estimation, 5 and 9/10 is close to 6. So it's about 6 miles. And 3 and 4/10 is about 3. So I rounded it to the nearest whole. Then I added it. Therefore, it is about 9 miles. So that's how you can kind of check to see, are they close? Yes, they are. So we probably did that correct. All right. let's practice one on your own. All right. So in your journals, I want you to think about this one. Mark runs 4 and 52 miles on Sunday and 3 and 94 miles on Wednesday. What is the total distance that he runs? Okay, so I want you to pause the video here and see if you can do this one on your own. And it is, remember, it's just addition, but it says, what is the total distance that he runs? Total distance. So remember your rules. So pause the video here and see if you can get your work correct. So you should have written down 4 and 52 hundredths plus 3 and 94 hundredths, and then drop down your decimal. Make sure your addition sign is there. There aren't any zeros that need to be filled in. And now we simply just add from right to left. 2 plus 4, you should have gotten 6. 5 plus 9, you should have gotten 14. And you carry your 1. And then you have 1 plus 4, which is 5 plus 3, which is 8. Okay, let's check this one. Giselle runs 3 and 600 miles on Saturday and 4 and 89 miles on Sunday. What is the total distance he runs on that weekend? So again, total distance, 3 and 600 plus 4 and 89 hundredths. Pause the video here, see if you can get those addition problems done correctly, and we'll check back again here in just a minute. Okay, so you should have 3 and 600 plus 4 and 89 hundredths written. There isn't any zeros that needed to be added in. We drop down the decimal, and now you simply just add. 9 plus 6 is 15. Carry your 1. 8 plus 1 is 9. And then you have your 3 plus 4, which is 7, for 7 and 95 hundredths. Let's try another one. Okay, this one is a little bit more tricky. Make sure that you pay attention to what you did. But a large parcel weighs 4 and 52 kilograms, and a smaller parcel weighs 2 and 4/10 kilograms. The two parcels are placed in a mailbox. What is the weight in the mail bag? So again, pause the video here, see if you can line up your decimals, add them up, add in any zeros, and get the total. Okay, so make sure that you've lined up your decimals. That is the first step. So you have 4 and 52 hundredths plus 2 and 4/10. Remember, line up your decimals, drop down the decimal, make sure that your addition sign is there, and then this one you needed to add in a 0 in behind the 4/10 to make it look correct. Now you're adding 2 plus 0. 5 plus 4 is 9, and then 4 plus 2 is 6. Now, if you didn't line it up correctly, your addition would have been wrong. So pause the video here and check and make sure you got it done correctly. All right, so your exit ticket is the first part of this. It's on page 36 of your Orgo, and it's just A, B, and C, where you're adding up these dollar amounts and seeing if you can get the total. Before we move on to the independent practice, I do want you guys to check in with me. So I will be pulling those up to check and make sure that those are done correctly before we do anything else. And then your independent practice is on page 37, which is A, B, C, and D of number 2, and number 3, A and B. So again, no more horizontal addition. You have to convert it to vertical, and that is the independent practice today. If you get finished, the extra practice is on Education Galaxy 5.2C if you didn't finish that up on Friday. And you have to have 3 stars, and then 5.3A Estimate Solutions, which is the new one. If you get finished with all of that, you are more than welcome to play Prodigy when you are finished. And if I have any extra math games that I have attached, then you can do that. But remember, you are going to be doing the exit ticket first. Let's check and make sure that you're adding correctly before we move on to the independent practice. All right, good luck, guys, and I'll see you in just a little bit.